What is going on, YouTube people? Cards and Comics there today for another edition of the weekly sports card market update. News, charts, and graphs. What more could you ask for on this fine Easter Sunday? Happy Easter to those of you out there that participate. I am on my way to a family dinner, lunch, whatever you want to call it, as most of you are probably listening to this. Gotta go get a little Easter basket, some Daffins. If you know, you know. Little Daffins chocolate bunny, bite them ears off. Baseball season is back. The NCAA tournament is going on. The NBA playoffs are fast approaching. In my mind, this is one of the best times of the year in the sports world. I know it's not football, but having the tournament on, having the race to the NBA playoffs, having baseball season starting, and then all that kind of leading up to the beginning of the playoffs and the NFL draft, all that happening in this mid-March to early May section. If you're in somewhere like me, Ohio, you get that spring weather where you start getting a little teased here and there, though it was really nice here yesterday, and it's supposed to snow later this week, but that's kind of Ohio for you. We got a solar eclipse coming. All sorts of crazy nonsense going on. Before we dive into the stuff, we have to talk about our friends over at ComC.com, channel sponsor of the weekly sports card market update. As I mentioned a couple weeks ago, I finally cracked 4K in sales over on ComC.com. I've been trying to do some spending. I picked up a Stroud Silver and a Jamar Chase Orange and a PSA 9. But I keep getting outbid on stuff. They had and I'm not a hockey guy, but I'm a sucker for a color match. They had a 2001 Topps Chrome Mario Lemieux Black out of 50 and a PSA 9 up for auction. And I was like, you know what? This card just speaks to me. Got outbid. Threw 1,100 on it. Went for 14. Wasn't even close. I had no idea how to price that card. Last one sold publicly like years ago. There's some real fun. I don't want to give any spoilers away because I really want to win these couple cards. There's some very interesting non-sports autographs that end later this week that I am keeping an eye on. I don't have much to send in right now. Probably my next big batch. I do have a small stack of Marvel stuff, but I'm going to hold off. My next big batch will probably be once Bowman rolls around, once we get some more information on that product. Their hockey event is finishing up. They have some live auctions going on now for that as well. If you're not checking out ComC, get your butt on over there. Send them some cards, buy some cards. They got it all. First up, let's dive into some newsy stuff. 1 of 1 Wemby. We talked about this about a week ago, but it existed. It has already been pulled. Blez Baseball pulled it. The 1 of 1 Wemby. This is from Topps Dynasty. These go for about $800 to $1,000 a box. I know Dynasty's been getting a lot of chit chat lately on the old social sphere. A friend of the channel, Teapot, did a video on the Market Movers channel, kind of talking up the RPA out of Topps Dynasty. And then him and the crew discussed it further on Spitballing Cards. If you're not checking out both those channels, you should be. The Market Movers channel, where Teapot does most of the shows, is awesome. And Spitballing Cards is absolutely fantastic if you're into baseball. Great group of guys over there, always covering some interesting topics. So I would strongly recommend going to check them out. And regarding Dynasty, side tangent here, I agree with Teapot's take if you saw that video. I think the Topps Dynasty RPAs are criminally underrated. I own Topps Dynasty. I don't own any RPAs. I have some vet stuff. Jose Ramirez. I have a Roger Clemens. A couple other little odds and ends of ones, but I'm always looking at Topps Dynasty cards when I'm at shows. I've had other ones come in and out of my possession over the years. It's one of my favorite sets of the year. Not to rip. It's you got to be a crazy person to rip it. But I love buying singles from it. With 2023 finally hitting, last big release from last year, my eBay save search has been going crazy. I have no idea what this card will sell for. I don't mind the, I guess I'll use the air quote inscriptions. I'm not sure the mustache and whatever is going on the side of his head that I'm a big fan of that. I don't mind the little alien because that's his nickname and the little UFO. But this nonsense here, I could have kind of went without, but you know, what are you going to do? Nice patch on that one. And this is from the Yankees jersey that he wore when he threw out the first pitch. If you're wondering why a basketball player is in a football product. I don't have any Wemby cards pulled up to look at today, but my lord, I think he had what did he have? A 40-20 the other day against the Knicks. Like, what in the hell? Wild stuff out of Wemby. I hope he could stay healthy. I know he does a lot of stuff. Talking about it in Dakota's Discord. He does some really crazy like stretching and stuff like that to kind of take care of his body. So hopefully that pays off for him and the dude can stay healthy, because what he does on the field, or on the court rather, is absolutely wild. Speaking of high-end products, I put this on here for a couple different reasons. Flawless Basketball came out. Cases, and by a case I mean a box, because a box is, you know, one of these like sealed briefcases. A briefcase of Flawless Basketball are going for around $8,000. It's whatever. The wild part of this, and I talked about this a few months ago, this is 2022 Flawless. This is Paolo's rookie year. He's the headliner on this. 2022 Flawless Basketball Panini. Just released. It is March of 2024. What the hell are we doing? March of 2024, we're getting Flawless Basketball. It's the end of the NBA season. We're a couple weeks away from the playoffs starting, and we are getting 2022 product. Wild stuff out there. Just wild stuff. I haven't really paid much attention to this at all. I saw some big logo men got hit and some other nonsense. This is a product that I'm never going to open. It's probably a product I would rarely even own singles from, because even the singles go for a decent chunk of change for what they're worth. At least most of this stuff, or at least a lot of Flawless, is typically game used, so they have that going for them. But I don't know if you're just buying a box of this outright to rip, man, more power to you. And buying the break seems even crazier with the such small amount of cards. I just don't know who chases this high-end product. I don't know anyone that's buying into Flawless breaks left and right, but someone out there has got to be doing it. Topps Now. They had the Bowman U now, whatever they want to call it. They are pumping out product to use up the last of that Caitlin Clark stuff while they got it. They got her to the end of the month. She goes to Panini April 1st. I'm going to guess this is the last thing we'll see. Maybe they'll try to squeeze one last thing out. They're clearly down to sticker autos because none of this stuff is on card. They released one of these earlier this week. They did this with CJ Stroud as well. I would not be surprised if we get a Victor Wembanyama one of these in a couple of months. This is a box set, basically. This one went for $850. You were guaranteed an auto out of 50 or less, or an auto relic 10 or less. So you were guaranteed one of those. You were guaranteed a relic card 50 to less, and then a 6-card pack with 5 base and 1 parallel. Some of the relic cards are pretty awesome. This is obviously probably the hit of the whole entire print run. 101 Nike swoosh. I believe that is player worn, so not game used memorabilia, but it is player worn with a Caitlin Clark sticker auto, unfortunately. So player worn and sticker auto, but still a pretty cool card. At least it's player worn. I did not pull the trigger on one of these, and then here's the actual box itself. You can kind of get an idea for the Nike laundry tag action there. Another 101. And then this is what the base autos look like. I get it. Women's college sports, or women's sports in general, are not for everybody. But Caitlin Clark is extremely popular. Her stuff sells. Her stuff sells. I've said it week after week. I am very curious to see what happens when she hits the WNBA and how her card prices kind of fluctuate out. Does she have enough, call it swagger, to actually drive WNBA product eyeballs, whatever you want to call it? Only time will tell. I'm sure people in the comments will just immediately jump to no, but I am willing to give it a little bit of time. Next one. Full rumor territory here. Outside of this one tweet, I know Dustin did a video on this yesterday. We just need a little bit more. This is like one of those things that got thrown out there. I have no idea if this is happening or not. This feels like a stretch, but what do I know? The rumors are that eBay could possibly be rolling out a 3% buyer's premium in the short to near term. I don't know if that'll happen or not. I feel like that would make people a little fired up. I don't know. Once again, we're not 100% sure if this is happening or not. There might be on certain cards. I know Dustin talked about, someone has to pay for eBay authenticity guaranteed. It was always pitched as free for now. Maybe this is something they would roll out on those cards. Like if it qualifies for authenticity guarantee, then you're paying the 3% buyer's premium on a card like that. Don't know. Would a 3% buyer's premium affect me? On sub $1,000 stuff, I don't really think I care. Or like at least the stuff's like a couple $100. I don't think it would bother me that much. But on more expensive items, which I don't buy a ton of, 3% would kind of suck. It doesn't sound like a lot, but that really adds up over time. Plus, depending on your situation, you're attacking that on top of sales tax, plus shipping, plus who knows what else, depending on, every person's a little bit different on that stuff. We'll see. We will see if this happens. I'm not going to freak out one way or the other or say the world is ending or this isn't a big deal until we actually know if this is coming and what are the bullet points that go along with it. I just thought I would include it here just to put it on your all radar to keep your eyes and ears open for this if it ends up coming down from the eBay lords. That being said, let's move into charts and graph territory, powered by Market Movers. Link in the description down below if you want your own charts and graphs. You get a free trial and then 20% off for life on whatever plan you sign up with using the coupon code down there. Let's lead off with the Market Pulse. As we talked to this first 3 months or so of the year, generally speaking, we've seen it time and time again. Cards start the year strong. The first 3 months of the year always seem to be kind of a hot market. There's plenty of different reasons you could cite for that. Tax returns, post-Christmas, people got, money that they're ready to spend. You have baseball season ramping up. You have the NFL offseason nonsense. You have the NBA heading towards the playoffs. Could be a little bit of all of that, one of that, none of that. But for whatever reason, generally speaking, coming out of the first of the year, the market usually starts strong. Once we move into April, historically, things tend to slow down a little bit most of the summer, and then it rises back up leading up to the National and the start of football season. Right now, we are slowly trending down to flat. You can see this is going back to the end of the year, or the beginning of 2024. You can see we started out nice and strong, up 4%, down a little bit, up 4%. And then since March, it has been, if we just blow this back to the last 30 days, it has definitely gone down the last 30. We are down about, 1.5%-ish. And this is on the SCI 500. It's their 500 most influential cards Pretty much any key card that you could think of is on this list. So that list is down about 1.5% and has been slow. Like I said, it's not huge drops. It's just a little bit here and there, just slightly trending down, went back up again. So just something to keep an eye on to see if this ends up repeating itself again. And we kind of move into baseball season, because I think a lot of what happens is we move into the warmer weather months. People start traveling. They have things to do with their family. They're busy on the weekends. They got outside activities. Vacations start up again. Money becomes a little bit tight again. The other thing that you have is baseball season starts, and anything that was propped up in the preseason, now expectations meet reality, and most players don't meet those expectations, and a lot of their card prices will dip, especially a lot of the prospect stuff, and that's where a lot of money's tied up in. Now, I don't know how many prospects are on the SCI 500, but guys like Otani are on here, and he obviously has some issues going on right now, for better or for worse. So just file it away. We'll circle back to this. I don't know that I'll pull it up every single week. Maybe like once a month at the end of every month, just to kind of see how things are going. But it'll just be interesting to see, do we end up following the same patterns that we have the last few years? Something to keep an eye on. Something to keep an eye on. First up, basketball. We talked about this a couple weeks ago, that Zion Williamson was selling for less than Ja Morant. Ja Morant, who has been out for pretty much the entire NBA season, also got suspended last year for the gun nonsense. Zion, once hobby darling, outside the NBA play-in tournament, not play-in tournament, the in-season tournament earlier this year, where he looked like absolute garbage, has actually been playing pretty well most of the year. He's been healthy, and on this stretch run to the playoffs, he has been playing great. And about a month or so ago, I was like, why are his cards selling for less than Ja Morant? The sports card world makes no sense. Guy's actually playing good. The other guy's out of the league. Well, Zion caught up. Barely, but he caught up. He is now basically selling for the same price as Ja. About a $40 to $50 increase over the last month or so. Up about 20-25%, give or take. And they are both going for right around $400. So Zion's good play. It looks like people finally figured it out, and his stuff has gone up. Now, can he continue? Will they maintain? Who do they get matched up with in the first round? Can they win a round? He is one, if they make a run, he could see a little bit of a pop-up. We'll see. They just lost Brandon Ingram. I'm not sure how long he's out for. But Zion has been playing really, really good the last really couple months. So we'll see where that ends up going there. Other guys that have been on relatively hot streaks, teams and players themselves. This is over the last 90 days, because I was just kind of curious to see how things have been moving. Anthony Edwards is having an absolutely fantastic NBA season. Dude looks like a monster. His silver prism over the last 90 is only up 15%. But just the fact that he is going up and not down is indeed strong. A lot of guys, even if they're playing well, trickle down during the season, but Edwards is slowly ticking up. I know they have a bunch of ownership nonsense going on right now. Jalen Green and the Houston Rockets, probably the hottest team in the NBA at the moment, on an absolutely torrid pace, potentially looking to knock the Warriors out of the 10 seed. Jalen Green stuff up 135% over the last 90 days. His silver prism was going for $75 at the start of 2024. It is now up to $175. And then Paolo Banchero, mentioned it earlier, from the 2022 class. His silver prism is up about 25 to 30%. Was 225 back at the beginning of the year, up to 285. The Magic, fighting for one of the top seeds in the Eastern Conference playoffs, potentially. Absolutely great defensive team. A little weak on the offensive side of the ball. But Paolo has been playing great. My Cavs could run into them in the first round of the NBA playoffs. I would much rather see them than the Knicks or the Heat. On the opposite end of the spectrum, two players that have kind of reset, and both Tyrese's. Tyrese Halliburton, Tyrese Maxey. Halliburton and Maxey both started off the season ridiculously hot. Halliburton got hurt, came back, has not been the same player since. Tyrese Maxey was on fire, actually has been playing really well most of the year, but lost Embiid, and then the eyeballs came off of that team. Both their cards are almost fully reset. Tyrese Halliburton, if we go back to the beginning of October, end of September, right before the NBA season started, Halliburton is up 0.5%. He is essentially fully reset. At one point in time, his Silver Prism was creeping on $500. Maxey, very similar. His stuff, he's down to $225. Maxey on the NBA season is up about 10% still, but he has actually fallen further from his highs. He was also up in that almost $500 range. You see 425 there, 425. There's a 450 at his peak right around Thanksgiving-ish. Now he's down to $225. So he has dropped more than Halliburton by about an extra $100. They were both in that $450 to $500 range. Tyrese slightly higher, Halliburton that is. But they have both basically fully reset. Maxey's not quite a full reset yet, but he's pretty darn close. I believe Embiid is on track to return before the end of the season, so that is good news for Philly. We'll see if that shines a little bit of light back on Maxey, and if they can make a little bit of a playoff run, maybe he sees a little bit of a bump up. But just two interesting names I'm kind of filing away. Like the Pacers, I could almost see them being the Cavs of last year, where they make it into the playoffs and then maybe they get swept in the first round. Not swept, but get bounced in the first round. They actually have a chance to run into the Cavs as well in the first round of the NBA playoffs. I think both these guys are good names to file away. They could be interesting off-season buys if the playoffs do not go well. Halliburton and the Pacers are on the upswing, and the 76ers, they are probably going to make some moves this offseason as well to add to that Maxey Embiid core, and they could be on the upswing as well heading into next season. So two names I'm going to file away and circle back to during the NBA offseason, depending on how the playoffs go. Football. Wanted to take a little peek at the 2023 NFL class this week. Their Silver Prisms now have been out to the market and have kind of settled in. So I was curious to see how their full four quarterbacks are kind of stacking up. We obviously have Stroud up top, sitting at about 825, 850, depending on the day. He was closer to 900. He's actually just dipped a little bit over this last week. You can see that little drop off there, back down to the low 800s for the first time. Will Levis coming in around $250. Bryce Young coming in at around 260-ish bucks. And then Anthony Richardson now up to around 400. At one point in time, he was creeping down towards the mid 300s, high 300s. He is back up over 400 now. Out of these four, obviously Stroud's the sexiest name, but the most expensive. Between Levis and Young, curious for your thoughts on this one. I actually think I would rather chase Levis stuff than Young stuff. And most of that is team context. The Panthers suck. They're going to suck for probably a while. And you really, if you're buying these guys now, you're probably looking to flip them before the season even starts anyway. To me, the Titans just look like the better overall roster. Then they brought in, who the hell? Calvin Ridley. They just signed Calvin Ridley to a rather large contract. They still have Hopkins floating around. They brought in Tony Pollard. Meanwhile, Young has a bunch of scraps around him. So those two guys selling around the same price is a little intriguing. Out of all of them, AR-15 is the one that interests me the most. I think his stuff, especially compared to Stroud, is the most interesting on the pricing tier. Even at around $400, I just think that's an interesting price point for his stuff. Liked what I saw out of him last year during the season. Obviously, injuries are always going to be a concern with him when you're running around that much. But I could see him being pretty hot by the time the national rolls around in Cleveland. It's baseball. Let's talk a little baseball. I had my PSA submission come back this past week. A lot of it had Top Series 1 in it. And I was just kind of interested to see how there was a lot of talk about Series 1 and the borders and the black and this, that, the other thing, the centering, quality control. How was it? We are far enough in release now. I was just curious to see how the gem rate percentage was on Topps 2024 Series 1. And a couple things that were kind of interesting from this. PSA and SGC are dominating most of the grading for this set. CGC is graded not that much at all. Beckett's hardly graded any at all. So for the purposes of this, we're going to focus on PSA and SGC. PSA so far is graded 2,400 total. 53% gem rate. Not actually that bad. Higher than what I thought that it was going to be. And you can see that the three top guys, and keep these numbers in mind because this is where it's interesting. Their overall gem percentage is 53%. Ellie's coming in at 51%. The Dominguez is at 46%. And the Evan Carter is at 57%. Those are the three main names from the set. 2,400 total graded, 53%. And then basically all three of these guys sitting at around 50-ish%, with Carter a little bit higher and Dominguez a little bit lower. When I flip this over to SGC, give it a second to load, their overall gem rate is about the same, 56% compared to 53%. They've graded about half as many, which in the past, this is one of those things where PSA's speed and SGC's current speed, you could tell the difference, because in the past, SGC would always run out to not a big lead, but a lead on especially these like paper-based lower end products because of their super fast turnaround times. And then PSA would eventually catch up in the long run once all those bulk orders started hitting. In this case, we're only a month or two into release, and PSA has a decent lead already. Okay, so that was the first interesting thing. This overall gem rate percentage being very close seemed completely normal. What I found odd was when you come down here and look at the main guys in the set, Ellie, Dominguez, Carter, look at the gem rate percentages. 73% gem rate on an Ellie De La Cruz base out of Series 1 seems high. 64% on Jason Dominguez and 83% on Evan Carter. Now, the pop counts on these are a little bit lower. You have 50, 40 on that one. The Ellie at 182 is pretty decent. But that seemed wild to me that their overall gem rate percentage between the two companies is pretty close. But the three main graded cards by SGC are way ahead. I mean, this is like 30% more. That's 20% more. That's 22% more. That's a big difference. I just found that kind of interesting, especially, once again, this is Top Series 1. A lot of people were like, oh, Top Series 1, it's going to grade like crap because of the design of it. But so far, it seems in line. The PSA numbers seem very in line, 53% gem rate. I just found this interesting. I mean, it could end up balancing it out. I just found it intriguing while I was looking at it. I don't have any, like, conspiracy theories or anything crazy like that on it, but I just thought it was interesting, so I would point it out. We'll check in on this every once in a while, just kind of see how things are shaking out. And this is on gem rates, population data, and it is the set breakdown report. Once again, just kind of wanted to check in on Otani stuff. I know we've been doing this week after week. It gets a little old, but it takes time to kind of see these drops sometimes in his stuff. A little bit more of a limited selection today. I went with the base refractor, the prism refractor, and the pink refractor, all from 2018 Topps Chrome. The biggest reason why I did this is they had recent sales late in the week. It doesn't give you much information to talk about if they haven't had cards sell recently. So I went with these because they have had cards sell recently. This is over the last 30 days. Let me expand this out so you can see a little bit better. His base refractor is now down 20%. His prism refractor is down about 30%. And the pink is holding strong at down about 3%. So, as we've been talking about, his stuff has kind of been dipping anyways in the lead up to the season. But you can see it's been taking a little extra dips here over this last week or so. Especially, let's see, the dark blue line is the base refractor, and the light blue line is the prism refractor, and even the pink kind of all edging over the cliff a little bit here. So once again, we'll kind of see how this goes over the next couple of weeks. I don't know if we'll look at it next week or not. We'll see how the week goes. But now that we're in season, he could have a monster week, and it could prop things right back up again, or news could come out that could swing this all sorts of different ways. If it comes out that he was completely clean, do we see a spike back up? If it comes out that we're still looking into it, do they drop back down again? If he has a 5 home run week, do they spike back up? We're in uncharted territory here with him, but I do think it is worth keeping an eye on. Reminder, Chantilly show is upcoming this week. I'm hopefully finalizing my plans on Monday to either officially lock into that show or not. Right now, I am like 80 to 90% attending Chantilly. I should be there Friday and Saturday. I haven't booked anything yet. It's the only reason why I'm putting an asterisk next to it. But the plans and wheels are in motion. I'm excited to check that show out. I have never been to Chantilly before. See if we can lock that in early part of this week and make that happen. Like I said at the top of the show, happy Easter, everybody, if that's your thing. If it's not, just enjoy this completely random Sunday in late March. April's around the corner. Spring is here. Baseball's back. March Madness. Wonderful time. Catch you boys and girls on the next one. Peace.